How's it going, everyone? This is Jason Navarro. You're listening to Tongues Out Podcast. And let's just jump right into today's subject. Before we actually touch on that, two things. First, um, I don't know why Chris Wallace is getting all this hate as like a bad moderator. I don't think anyone, this is talking about yesterday's podcast, by the way, and the presidential debate from yesterday. I still can't get over it. And but yeah, I keep seeing all like this negative press about like how Chris Wallace was a bad moderator. I would love to see anyone try to moderate what had occurred there that night. I mean, outside of the fact that they went ahead and force muted the individuals while the other person was talking, which I don't think anyone would have enjoyed, but probably would have been a little bit better of a system than just allowing each candidate to just talk over each one another about like really stupid and irrelevant things. Like the average American looking at that, I still can't get over. Like I had to rewatch it multiple times. Didn't get anything out of that, and it's crazy to see just how many people agree with me. On the second note, I'm glad that even though I titled my podcast yesterday, I think it was what I titled it, worse. Let's talk about the dumbest debate I've ever seen. Most people said about the exact same thing. Most people said that it was the worst debate in the history of like in American history, which I agree with. And it's funny that I saw it started to see down the news the next day. I'm glad that a lot of other people saw it as well. You know, I don't like to say I agree with a lot of media sources, but I will agree with him on this note that was the biggest waste of time, I think, for anyone. You literally didn't get anything out of it. But anyways, this podcast isn't about that. This podcast, yesterday was a great distraction, and I feel like in life I'm going to be needing quite a lot of them, or like a perfect balance of it, because tomorrow starts literally the busiest time period for me, and I still can't wrap my mind around it. Like I'm getting emails, messages, and people just reminding me like, hey, tomorrow, guns blazing, like here we go. This is like the busiest time of the year for us. Get ready. And I'm super excited, super stoked. I can't wait to help a ton of people with their Medicare services, but at the same time, man, I'm definitely I feel very overwhelmed, especially because this Friday is going to be the most important day of my life. Like up to this point in my life, it's going to be the most important day. And I cannot go into detail about why. All I can say is that if on Friday, if I'm teary-eyed, crying, whatever the podcast, whatever it's going to be like, I just want you guys to understand that that day was probably the most difficult day for me to ever handle in my life. I've been presented with a ton of challenges, a ton of obstacles, things that I've failed at, things I've succeeded at, people I've failed, situations I failed, instances in life, and none of those things, nothing in my life is going to prepare me for what I'm going to be going through on Friday. And I want to go into more detail about it, but I just, out of respect to just everyone, I just can't at the moment. But yeah, it's tough. It's been looming forever, ever, and finally the day has come for this. And I don't know. It's a tough day. Talked to a therapist actually about it today. I wholeheartedly, I did a podcast about this where I promoted how talking to a therapist is probably like one of the best things you can do. Even like the most healthiest minded individuals, I consider myself to be in that position. I'm very positive most of the time. You know, sometimes in these podcasts, I like to talk about serious things, but honestly, if you did know me in person, I tend to laugh at the most silliest things, and I just find humor. And I don't know why, actually reflecting on my podcast, when I watch them, I don't really see that in them. And it's weird because I feel like I'm trying to have some level of professionalism in my podcast, but that doesn't make any sense either because the title of the podcast is Tongues Out Podcast. So, I mean, I do laugh, in some podcasts, and I find humor in some things, but I'll make this commitment to you guys. Like after Friday, if everything turns out great, I'm going to incorporate more and more and more humor, more of myself into it. I feel like I've been trying to like finesse this balance between being informative and being funny and being like serious, but also not too serious. Like I'm trying to navigate all that, and it's like, screw it. Just like be yourself, like have fun, make silly jokes. People are going to enjoy it. People aren't. Um, Not that I'm saying that I'm not being myself. Like everything I say on this podcast is 100% legitimately my ideology, my perspective, my feelings, all of these things. I mean, outside of this thing that I just can't talk about, I feel like I've shared a lot already on this podcast. But it's more like the way I deliver it, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Because the way I really deliver a lot of messages in life is in a very humorous way. Even when I'm trying to teach someone, I try to incorporate some kind of humor in there. And I don't know, maybe I'm beating myself up a little bit. I feel like there are sometimes I listen to my podcasts and I can see that there's some serious tone to it, but I think it's just the environment as well. You know, we all fall victim to it. You know, COVID's still a thing. This election period's coming up soon. I have my personal stuff that I'm coping with. All of those things compound onto one another. And you get someone that maybe sometimes comes off as a little bit more serious than they need to be. But I promise you, to all those that are listening that truly know me, I know that you guys know that I'm just a funny person and that this is just an interesting time for everyone. But I do want to change that for sure. But yeah, the therapist was super helpful today. And going back to that, I think everyone needs to, at any point, really, especially during this pandemic, reach out to their insurance provider if they still have insurance. Unfortunately, a lot of you don't, but if you do have insurance, find out if they cover like therapy, and definitely find a therapist to talk to. I'm fortunate enough to be able to communicate with mine over the phone, which is pretty great. And I think some therapist offices are actually trying to do that more often than not. So you'll probably have to stop by the office and kind of fill out some paperwork, but I think in the future, once you go through your first preliminary session, I think you can kind of go through the rest of them over the phone, which is pretty great. Um, and like I said, was super helpful in just like clearing my mind, getting me to just like be more reflective on my thoughts, because I share these things with my wife, I share them with my family, but there's always going to be a part of me that feels like there's a bias whenever I speak my mind to people, because I feel like they know who I am. And so they feel like they might be able to address certain things for me because they think they know what's right for me. And not to say that they don't, but no one really truly knows what's going through your life and going through your head outside of yourself. Some people can get really close in understanding your life, especially if you're very open. And I tend to be a very open book, maybe more so than I need to be. But even being an open book, there are certain things that I know I still keep from people sometimes. And like I get emotional about the silliest things. I cry. Like I'm full of emotion. Like I'm a very, that's like not the right way I want to say it. I am not emotionless. I am full of emotion. So like I look at different situations in life, and definitely depending on how I feel about them, I'll express them. I don't really care how people can perceive it. I'll try to refrain sometimes if I feel like maybe the way I'm portraying my emotions isn't conducive to what's going on in the situation. But if I'm by myself and I see something that's beautiful or meaningful or sad, I'll let the tears roll. I don't care. I don't care if I'm open about that. If people want to judge me and think that like makes me less of a man because I do that, I mean, that's your opinion, I guess. But I feel like the more connected I am with my emotions, the more I can be a stronger individual by being able to portray these things to people and letting them know how I feel. I feel like even like the toughest men or women tend to really like bottle up their emotions and hide a lot of things from people. And I don't really agree with that, because eventually they lash out to people when a lot just piles up on top of them. But this podcast really is all over the place. It's like starting off with the president, like a reflection still on the presidential debate, and then going into like, honestly, my mind is in a million different places. I think this is like podcast will clearly illustrate that as well. But I wanted to keep it short. I wanted to use this as another, like, this podcast is great. It's great therapy, because I allow myself to speak out my mind on a daily basis. And I kind of consider it as a daily diary almost, of just like with the things that interest me, and how I just let them be recorded and expressed outwardly. But yeah, these next few days are going to be wild, to say the least. Super stressful and exciting. It's like every emotion I can think of, like exciting, sad, angry, happy, laughing. All of those things are going to happen, like in all varying degrees within the next 3 days. And like, I'm not a person that likes to, because again, like I said, I'm open about my emotions. Going through a roller coaster like that is not fun for me. For other people, they might enjoy roller coaster rides with their emotions. I'm not a big fan of it. I like to kind of be stagnant with my happiness, and then like laughter, and throw in some like beauty and awe from like the world, and maybe some sadness sometimes to reflect on your own personal life, but like not too much sadness. But I feel like all of these things are just going to be all over the place. But we'll see. Time is always the strongest, the most important. I don't know what's the word I want to use. Idea. It's the most important thing to understand, that in due time you will understand better your situation. You'll be able to reflect on things a lot better. And so I know that I just need to let time run its course, and I know that it'll be good. But if everyone's sounding confused, trust me, I feel that way right now. And well, like I can't wait to share like more information with you guys, and glad to have a lot of people, be part of this journey with me. But either way, I wanted to really keep this one. This next few days are going to be a really short podcast. Because there's, like I said, there's just a ton of stuff on my mind. But anyways, thank you guys so much for listening, and I can't wait to catch you guys mañana. Peace.